Jesus is inviting us into earnest prayer that when the harvest comes and God calls people, we better be ready to move when God says move. And over the last 8 months, as an elder team, as a pastor, like we've been earnestly praying what to do with all the small humans. So we had a Sunday 3 weeks ago where we had 70 teens and kids here on a Sunday. There were more minors than majors, than adults, not majors, right? There were more minors than adults on a Sunday morning. That's insane, right? Like, praise Jesus. Like, that's incredible. And I think we were sitting and talking as an elder and deacon team, and something Gary said during that meeting just really stuck with my heart. He said, we're not just responsible for their discipleship and their opportunity to hear the gospel. One day we'll stand before Jesus and also be accountable for how we stewarded this incredible gift. Man, I'm going to tell you, like, as someone in the midst of raising kids is hard. There's a lot of loud competing messages, right? In other times in human history, it was really easy to protect your kids from messages you didn't want, right? But every message is just a tap away. And so we've been wrestling and praying, like, what do we do, Jesus? Like, what do we do with these kids? Like, we have, if you've never spent time with the teenagers of our church, they're incredible. Like, they love Jesus. They all serve. They give. They're praying for their friends to come to know Jesus. They're taking risks to share the gospel. Like, when we meet together, they're sharing people that they want to come to know Jesus as a primary part of their faith journey. They ask incredibly hard questions and are deeply concerned that their life is incongruent with the gospel. And we're accountable as a church on how we go about. And I'll be honest, for the last 6 months, it's been rather distressing. Like, what do we do? Like, how is this going to work? Right? Like, how do we disciple these kids and their families and create healthy generations, not just for now, but for these kids as they grow? And over the last 3 weeks, there are moments in life when God just does something that blows your mind. And this is the first time in 16 years of ministry for me that I've ever seen God do something like that. So over the last 6 months, we've been praying, and I've been talking with leaders from Converge. If you don't know, we're part of something greater than ourselves. We partner with a bunch of churches that are like-minded theologically, and we combine resources for church planting and missions, and it's an incredible group. Like, I wouldn't be here without it, and I just love the partnership. It blesses our church in ways that you have no idea. And I've been praying and meeting with pastors, and like, so what do we do, right? The average church has like 17% of their congregation is kids. Like, we're sometimes at 50. Like, what the heck do we do, right? Like, this is incredible. This is a unique movement of God that God's doing as he's drawing families and kids to come and hear the gospel. And we've been talking and we've been praying. And about 5 months ago, I don't know if you know, we had a guy named Josh, and he was running our kids for about 8 months. And this is one of the first times in ministry that I've had everyone who worked with someone come up to me and say, that person is amazing and gifted at what they do. And like 4 months ago, I sat down with Josh and I asked him, like, hey, like, would you consider, like, he's got a great job in oil and gas. He's got like this wonderful career. He spent 18 years building, and he's over in Wyoming right now. And I asked him, like, would you consider, like, being the family pastor here? And in less than 3 seconds, he said, absolutely not. Right? That was not the call in the season. But Jesus is haunting to our souls when he beckons us someplace. And over the last 3 weeks, God's done something incredible in Josh's life. Josh made the poor decision of asking Jesus what he thought about that. And I'm going to warn you, if you ask God questions, God answers them. And then when God answers them, he gives this overwhelming peace that surpasses all understanding, logic, like reasonable career moves, right? All of these different things. And God says, go, and like you either use your feet or a fish is getting you there. It's one of those moments when God says go, like you go, because traveling by fish is a terrible way to go from place to place. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, read the book of Jonah, and my not funny joke will maybe be marginally humorous later on in your week. And so 3 weeks ago, when Josh left, I'm like, hey, like, I'm so glad you're going where God's sending you out to Wyoming. We're going to talk every week, and I'm going to pray for you and send you well. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm alone, I'm not at my best. Anyone else? Right? I'll take the trash out, and I'll hear something, like, by myself. And my kids are with me, like, oh, it's fine. It's nothing. Like, Dad's here. Nothing to be afraid of. I'm bigger than the boogeyman and far uglier and all those things, right? And so in the midst of checking in with Josh, I was like, hey, Josh, how you doing? He's like, not good. Like in the midst of going out to Wyoming for the last month and a half, God removed all of his peace, all of his joy. And in the midst of that, I know sometimes men just need to go into the wilderness on our own, be by ourselves to hear from God, because we're so dense in being doggedly committed to our own plans. Maybe other males not like that, but I tend to get like messages via 2x4, right? Not by the still soft voice. But in the midst of that, I was like, hey, Josh, how you doing? And he's like, I don't think I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. And he was meeting with this older pastor. He's older, he's in his 70s, you can call him older, right? And they were praying and talking out there, and God, in the midst of this conversation, by God's supernatural peace and call, said, like, Philip, like, I'm supposed to move back. And like, in this moment, this career that Josh has spent almost 2 decades building, and Josh like went to college to be, we're going to have a biography about him that you can read afterwards that he wrote for himself to share a bit of his story. I won't overshare. But almost 20 years ago, Josh went to Bible college to enter into ministry, and for the last 20 years, he's kept knocking on the door, and God says, not yet, not yet, not yet. And then this time, Josh knocked. And God ripped the door off the hinges and said, come. And God moved in his heart, and our need is immense right now. Like what Gary told me is just haunts my soul. Not only are we responsible, but one day we'll be accountable for what we do and how we steward this. And the really significant need of the church right now is to have a family pastor. And those of you who've been around church for a while, this isn't a youth pastor who's going to do just teen stuff or a kids person. This is going to be someone who's focused on the family units of parents, kids, right, teens and their parents, and connecting them with God, each other, and the church. Because the reality is right now, like, I'm doing my best to pastorally care, but like, I'm a little past my line at the moment. Right? There are meetings and space that people want to have that I just can't take because there's too much to do, and now is the time when God's opened up the door and beckoned someone in. So we had a combined deacon and elders meeting, and we prayed and talked last week. And we counted the cost, and we wrestled with it. And it's one of those moments, like, in 16 years of vocational ministry, I've never seen God do something so beautifully and plainly where someone's call inside and a community's need on the outside were so tightly matched. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to earnestly pray for the next 3 weeks. And on March 19th, we're going to have a choice to make. I cannot hire him because we don't have the budget. And the elder team can't until the budget's changed. And so on March 19th, we're going to have a special business meeting. We're going to take in some new members as God's continued to grow and call people here. There are a few people who want to make this place home long term. And we're going to vote to rework our budget to allow us to set aside someone, because the harvest is so plentiful right now. Right? And when God calls, It's time to go. So what we're going to do for the next 3 Sundays from 9 to 10 over in the fellowship area, we're going to be praying together. Worship team will be in here practicing. I'll be with anyone and everyone who will come. And we're going to spend an hour earnestly crying out and praying to God for wisdom. Because there's a cost for everything. There's a cost if we do, but I'm going to say there's an even greater cost if we don't. And so next week, we'll have our proposed budget, and we're going to finish working through that. We'll have a job description so you can a little greater understand what we're calling and asking God to do with this. And then on the 19th, after 3 weeks of prayer, and I'm going to ask you who it's like medically safe for the next 3 Sundays to fast until service ends. I think we see over and over in Scripture when people are wanting to hear from God, they fast and they pray so that God might bring wisdom. And so that's what we're going to do. And so next week, I'll have a list of 8 points that we're going to be particularly praying for. We'll roll them out at the meeting, and they'll be on bulletins for the next 3 weeks. And I'm just going to ask you to be in prayer for us as a church, for wisdom, for faith. I don't know about you, but sometimes taking a risk is hard, but only on days ending in Y. The rest of the days, it's really simple to take risks. This is just one of those moments where God's made it so abundantly clear, right? That when God opens those doors, like, we're just beckoned to follow.